Caring Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QAndReview. That is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QAndReview.com. That is INFORMATION@CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
Evening Times, June 26. Opinion. Patrick Harvey, Green MSP, calls for publicly owned bus company in Glasgow. MSPs are to debate the future of Glasgow's bus services at Holyrood today. SPT has recently consulted on a plan to introduce a franchising system for buses in the city region. It would involve the authority setting expectations for routes, timetables and fares, which bus operators would then bid to deliver. Patrick Harvey, Green MSP for Glasgow, writing for the Glasgow Times, sets out his position, which would see the city go even further and set up a publicly owned bus firm. Harvey says, Glasgow deserves world-class public transport, but everyone who uses it can see that it is confusing, expensive and unreliable. I rely on bike, bus and train to get around, and I see the problems every day. On a recent trip to a Glasgow hospital, figuring out the bus journey was far more stressful than the medical procedure I was there for. Public transport is vital to connect people with opportunities, jobs and services, friends, family and basic essentials. Yet all too often people in Glasgow simply cannot rely on it, making our lives harder and inequality deeper. People on the sharp end of the cost of living crisis are the most reliant on buses, yet a first bus local day ticket is now nearly £6, and that's if they have not already cut your bus route. It doesn't have to be this way. We can have bus services that serve passengers instead of profit. Campaigners like Get Glasgow Moving and the STUC have been building the case for change, and that's why I'm bringing a debate on the future of Glasgow's buses to Holyrood. The Scottish Greens have always made the case for cheaper and better transport, winning free bus travel for under 22s and scrapping peak rail fares, as well as investing to make it safer and easier to walk and cycle. Free bus travel has had an incredibly positive impact on young people's lives. 94,000 young people in Glasgow have taken just shy of 30 million free bus journeys since it was introduced in 2022. But bus fares should be cheap or free for everyone all the time. But without reliable, accessible and integrated buses, even free travel will not get you very far. If we had publicly owned bus companies, we would deliver great results for communities. You just have to look at Lothian buses in Edinburgh. Over the last decade, they've paid back a £36 million dividend to the council that runs them. That's the norm in many parts of Europe, and cities like Manchester have made great progress in recent years. So why cannot we run our buses ourselves here in Glasgow? SPT is already looking at how Glasgow could either commission or run bus services, but the Scottish Government must back this plan if it's going to work. First, we need to give councils the power to plan the routes they need and cap fares. But that's only the first step. From there, we need to properly support new publicly owned bus operators. If we get this right, Glasgow and the wider region can achieve better buses for everyone. Cheaper, more reliable and greener. Glasgow deserves nothing less, says Patrick Harvey, Green MSP. Evening Times, June 26. Lifestyle. BBC Radio Scotland launches search for top jazz musicians. Report by Sandha Suresh. BBC Radio Scotland has launched its search for Scotland's top young jazz talent. The initiative, now in its third year, is run in partnership with the Glasgow Jazz Festival. The search aims to encourage and recognise the diverse talent in Scotland's jazz scene. This competition complements BBC Radio Scotland's awards for young trad and young classical musicians, along with BBC Introducing's search for the best in contemporary music. Young musicians aged between 18 and 27 who live in Scotland can apply by completing an online entry form and submitting a 10-minute video of themselves performing. Applications opened on June 23, and entries will be accepted until 4 p.m. on September 8. The winner of the competition will be offered a recording session at BBC Scotland, as well as the opportunity to perform at an event organised by the Glasgow Jazz Festival. The finals are scheduled to take place at BBC Scotland's Pacific Quay in Glasgow on November 9. The event will be hosted by Sinead Aiken and will be broadcast on BBC Radio Scotland. The competition is open to all eligible individuals, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, socio-economic background, religion or belief. Report by Sandha Suresh.
This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday, 27th June 2025. From the News section. Glasgow travellers face chaos at popular holiday spots. By Ben Waddell. Glasgow travellers face chaos at several popular holiday spots this summer. Strikes have been confirmed for 180,000 hospitality workers throughout July on multiple Spanish islands. The Sun reported that hotels, restaurants and clubs on the Balearic Islands will be hit by the walkouts, which are expected to cause chaos for thousands of British holidaymakers. The islands of Mallorca, Ibiza and Menorca will be affected by the strike action. Walkouts were confirmed on June 26th after union bosses marched out of a meeting about pay and working conditions, calling hospitality bosses' offer of an 11% pay rise insufficient. It is understood that talks about reducing the working week to 35 hours were also shut down when employers said they categorically rejected the proposal. José García Relucio, UGT union spokesman, said the offer was more crumbs and claimed hotel bosses were expecting staff to live on tips. He told The Sun, "We'd come here to negotiate to improve the conditions of service industry workers, not to worsen them." Strikes will go ahead on the islands unless a deal is struck from July 10th, with further walkouts taking place on July 18th, 19th, 25th and 31st. Following the pay talks, Javier Vich, president of the Hotel Business Federation of Mallorca, blamed union bosses for failing to reach a compromise. He claimed employers were making an effort to reach a fair agreement for workers. That article was by Ben Waddell. This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday 27th June 2025, from the News section. The 2025 Glasgow Community Champion Awards are on their way. An exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. Glasgow is full of unsung heroes who go the extra mile for their communities. For almost 2 decades, the Glasgow Times has been celebrating their achievements with our annual awards extravaganza. The Glasgow Community Champion Awards will be returning for 2025, so it's time to consider who you want us to include in the shortlist. Our popular event is a highlight in the city's calendar, and this year, with a new headline partner and exciting categories across the board, it promises to be even bigger and better than before. Ahead of our official launch, Glasgow Times editor Stacey Mullen is keen to encourage Glaswegians to think about nominating their neighbours, colleagues, friends or family members. She said, "It's always a joy to bring the process of our Glasgow Community Champion Awards. No other event celebrates Glaswegians quite like we do, and we are very proud to be able to shine a spotlight on the amazing people who are the lifeblood of this city." Ms Mullen added, "Our awards are a great way to pay tribute to unsung heroes in every corner of Glasgow, and I am looking forward to hearing this year's nominations and sharing their stories with our readers." We'll be revealing our full partner lineup and more details about the event soon, but the entry form is already open here at www.glasgowtimes.co.uk/community-champion-awards/entry-form/. There are 10 awards up for grabs this year. Community Champion, Champion Team, Sporting Champion, Champion School of the Year, Green Champion, Health and Wellbeing Champion, Arts Champion, Youth Champion for secondary school aged young people, Little Champion of the Year for primary school aged children, and Senior Champion for the over 60s. We want to hear about inspirational individuals and great groups in your area. Who do you think deserves recognition for fantastic community work? Tell us why they should win, and remember to include lots of detail and photographs to support your entry. For more information, call 0141 302 6046. That article was an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday 27th June 2025, from the News section. UK emergency alert message to be sent to mobiles in new test, by Patrick Glover. Nearly every mobile phone in the UK is set to receive an emergency alert message in 2025, which will trigger a loud 10-second siren-like sound. The message will come as part of a national test of the UK emergency alerts system by the government and mobile network operators. Emergency Alerts is a UK government service that warns people when there's danger to life nearby. Gov.uk says, in an emergency, your mobile phone or tablet will receive an alert with advice about how to stay safe. Alerts will only be sent by emergency services, government departments, agencies and public bodies. They will usually alert people to things like severe flooding, fires or extreme weather. Some people received emergency alerts from the UK and Scottish governments back in January due to the red weather warning and strong winds associated with Storm Éowyn. While the last test of the service took place on April 23, 2023. The last test alert read, Severe Alert. This is a test of emergency alerts, a new UK government service that will warn you if there's a life-threatening emergency nearby. In a real emergency, follow the instructions in the alert to keep yourself and others safe. Visit gov.uk/alerts for more information. This is a test. You do not need to take any action. Following the successful test of the UK Emergency Alert System in 2023, the government said it would carry out occasional operator tests to assess improvements made. The next national test is set to take place later this year. An exact date is yet to be revealed. The gov.uk website says, you may get this alert if you have a phone that has operator test alerts turned on. These operator tests are not alerting you of real danger. These alerts will always have operator in the title and will confirm that no action is needed. If you get an emergency alert, your mobile phone or tablet will make a loud siren-like sound for 10 seconds, vibrate and read out the alert. The alert will also include a phone number or a link to the gov.uk website for more information. Emergency alerts, according to the government website, will only work on the following devices: iPhones running iOS 14.5 or later, Android phones and tablets running Android 11 or later. Other phones that do not run iOS or Android may also receive alerts. You may also still be able to receive alerts if operating on an earlier version of Android. To check, search your device settings for emergency alerts. You will not receive an emergency alert message if your device is turned off, connected to a 2G or 3G network, Wi-Fi only, not compatible, in airplane mode. If you do not wish to receive an emergency alert message as part of the national training, you can opt out. For Android phones, to stop receiving operator test alerts on Android devices, search your phone's settings for emergency alerts and turn off test alerts, exercise alerts, operator defined and operator alerts. If you cannot see them in your settings, the government recommends opening your phone's calling app, using the keypad to enter *#*#2627 #*#*. Search your settings for emergency alerts and turn off test alerts, exercise alerts, operator defined and operator alerts. Other mobile phones, depending on the manufacturer and software version of your phone, emergency alert settings may be called different names according to gov.uk. The settings can usually be found in one of the following ways. The government website says go to Message, then Message Settings, then Wireless Emergency Alerts, then Alert. Settings, then Sounds, then Advanced, then Emergency Broadcasts. Settings, then General Settings, then Emergency Alerts. Then turn off test alerts, exercise alerts, operator defined and operator alerts, it adds. That article was by Patrick Glover.
From the Glasgow Times, Sunday the 29th of June 2025, from the news section, exclusive by Glasgow Memories Letters. Mystery Glasgow woman behind musical donation revealed. After the Glasgow Times ran my plea for information about an organ which we restored for our church in Dedham, we discovered much more of the story. I wanted to find out about the lady, a Mrs. Henderson, who donated the famous Binns organ to the town hall in Kinning Park, but she proved very elusive. However, with the help of the Glasgow Times and special collections at the Mitchell Library, we discovered that Margaret Henderson, née Anderson, was born in Glasgow in 1837. She married James Henderson, a carpenter employing 30 men, in 1855. They had 4 children: James, who died in 1890, aged 34, Thomas, who died in 1879, aged 21, Janet, known as Jessie, and Margaret. James ran Anderson and Henderson, builders, wrights and sawmillers, who employed 164 men by 1881. He died in 1882 and left £17,398, equivalent to £2.7 million nowadays. Mrs. Henderson and her 2 daughters donated the organ to Kinning Park Town Hall on the occasion of its opening in 1902. A report in her sister paper, the then Glasgow Herald, on October the 10th, 1902 said, "The new town halls which had been erected in Kinning Park were formally opened last night by Mrs. Gray, wife of Provost Gray. Provost Gray, in the course of an address, read a letter from Mrs. Henderson, Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Mann, giving the community the large organ which had been placed in the hall, and expressed on behalf of the inhabitants their hearty appreciation of the gift. Mrs. Henderson died in 1903. I am grateful to everyone who helped uncover the story of our organ, which now has pride of place in the Dedham Parish Church." Margaret Kitson, Dedham. Quest to find answers about Old Glasgow Park. I was born June Monroe in 1953, and my mum always said I was born on Rotten Row. She has passed now, but I understood there was a park, possibly called Queen Elizabeth Park, across from the hospital. I have an old photograph of my mum, dad and brother and me at the park, but I'm having trouble finding out if this is all accurate. Do any Times Past readers know if there was a park across the street from Rotten Row at around that time? June Bervig, Glasgow. Who remembers Old Glasgow Bar which was razed to the ground? I have just come across a recent Glasgow Times article about Caden Street. My parents owned the Royal Bar at the corner of Scotland Street. I wonder if any readers remember it. The Royal dated back to about 1872 and was owned by wine and spirit merchant James Taylor, who lived at 5 Finniston Street. He served the locals until the 1880s, and during the 1890s the licence changed hands a few times to owners including George Weir and James Simpson, Walter B. Scott, and, after the First World War, Charles McGarvey. My mum and dad and Betty and William Connolly ran the pub in the 1950s, 60s and 70s. It was closed and razed to the ground in the 1970s to make way for the MA motorway. Gerard Connolly, Glasgow. Every day we receive emails and letters from readers keen to share their memories of Glasgow. If you'd like to send us your stories and photos, email ann.fotheringham@glasgowtimes.co.uk. That's ANN.FOTHERGLASGOWTIMES@glasgowtimes.co.uk, or write to Ann Fotheringham, Glasgow Times, 125 Fullerton Drive, Glasgow, G32 8FG. That article was an exclusive by Glasgow Memories Letters. From the Glasgow Times, Sunday the 29th of June 2025, from the news section, exclusive. We lost a lot. The residents standing up for Glasgow's Sight Hill. Article written by Anne Fotheringham. It is just after noon on Monday, so the Golden Oldies have assembled inside the Sight Hill headquarters of New Rhythms for Glasgow. They are discussing their latest project, a guided audio walk for the area which will be delivered to residents, friends and local politicians on July the 3rd. It is quite something, this hour-long tour of the sights, sounds and smells of Sight Hill through the decades. It is moving and funny, peppered with history and full of stories from people who have lived and worked here for many years. Also, it pulls no punches and makes plain the mixture of joy and frustration many locals feel about the work going on in the area. Located about a mile north of Glasgow city centre, next to the M8 motorway, Sight Hill is currently undergoing one of the biggest urban regeneration projects in the UK. Jean Watson is 86 and has lived in Sight Hill for more than 60 years. We miss the shops, she says, simply, to nods from everyone around the table. The fish and chip shop, the hairdresser, post office, Presto's, laundrette. There is nothing left. Cathy Skimmins is 83. When we moved here, our son was in primary school and he's 62 now, she says, smiling. It's changed a lot. We've lost a lot. The walk starts at NRFG in the old Sight Hill Nursery building on Fountainwell Road. Here, the charity provides a range of creative and wellbeing services to adults and children. Many of the stops on the walk are simply memories, buildings like the old school, and parks like the Cuddies, replaced by houses. Others do still exist, like the ancient standing stones which were actually built in 1978, the splendid new school campus, and the new Rust Bucket Bridge, part of the new active travel network, dismissed as ugly by many around the table, while they do acknowledge it's a handy way into town and lovely when it's lit up at night. The Stinky Ocean, an area of boggy ground where the St Rollots Chemical Works once stood, gets a mention too. Resident Patrick Borland explains, did the waste products leach into the surrounding soil and waterworks, causing the strong rotten egg smell? Or did it come from the washing out of the barrels at the nearby Port Dundas Whisky Bond? Whatever the answer, it was awful, agrees everyone, and hung in the air for what seemed like forever, causing people to take their washing in, close their car windows if they were driving past, and hold their noses while waiting on the bus. Amid the history, there are stories, a jumble of memories from people who love this place, who are not against change, but want it to mean something, to improve the lives of the community who live and work here. Who decided that we didn't need local shops here, or public transport, says Mary McLaughlin, in frustration, that we could just walk along the main road to get to the Tesco to get milk? It's not right. Liz Wilson, who is 54, has lived here for almost 30 years. Building all these houses is great. We want people to come into the area, but we need shops, she says. And paths. All these new paths that have been built and then fenced off. It makes no sense at all. NRFG Service Manager Kirsty Marshall says, this is the biggest regeneration project outside of London that the UK has ever seen, and, while there are huge positives, it has been challenging for many community members. The walk is a chance for the politicians and the investors and decision makers to hear about those challenges from the horse's mouth. The walk captures the perspectives of people involved in the whole process, and it's important their voices are heard. Pauline Lynn recalls an ill-fated trip to the area's famous B-listed cemetery, built in 1840, and a common filming location for gritty STV cop show Taggart. We were told not to play there, but we went anyway, she says, smiling. I still remember being there all alone with all those big headstones. I couldn't even tell on her, because they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Cathy Skimmins lived in the high-rise flats at Pinkston, which have since been demolished. It felt like we lost a bit of community spirit, she says. Everyone went all over the place, neighbours you've known for years. It's great that new people are coming in, but it's not quite the same. New Rhythms is a saving grace, agreed the group. This is an amazing place. The launch clubs are brilliant, says Rosalie McLean. They are bringing back the community spirit. Helen Quinn, 70, met her husband Jim in Sighthill. He was a bouncer and she was a barmaid, working together in the local pub. They have been married for 52 years. Jim grew up in Sighthill and he can still remember the old streets and shops, says Helen. The audio tour is important. I learned a lot doing it. It's not just about the challenges, it's also about the positives of Sighthill, and there's lots to celebrate. Sighthill's audio walk takes place from 12:30 until 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, July the 3rd. All welcome. For more information, visit the group's social media pages. That article was an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. From the Glasgow Times, Sunday the 29th of June 2025, from the news section. Glasgow Caledonia Road high-rise flats in Gorbals demolished. Report by Donald Erskine. 2 high-rise blocks of flats in Glasgow have been demolished. Hundreds of onlookers gathered at several vantage points in the Gorbals to watch the buildings being pulled down. The high-rises at 305 and 341 Caledonia Road were brought down using explosives by Dem Master Demolition. The blocks of flats are owned by New Gorbals Housing Association, NGHA, who decided to bring them down to make way for social rent homes. The towers were built in 1971 and are nestled between St Francis Primary School and the Southern Necropolis Cemetery. The exclusion zone covered the graveyard and the nearby Gorbals Rose Gardens. There were 2 of the last standing Gorbal Tower blocks, built in 1965. Each of the Caledonia Road tower blocks rose to 23 stories. At its peak, the Gorbals was home to 16 of the towering blocks. The demolition comes after the buildings were declared unsustainable and unaffordable to save as they were deemed not up to the modern safety standards. The Glasgow Times previously reported that residents of the high-rise block were first informed of the possible teardown back in 2020. Today, June 29th, the flats have been levelled in a controlled explosion. Locals gathered in their draws, with many feeling very emotional at the sight of the block coming down. A loud cheer did go up from the crowd as the dust billowed into the air. Fraser Stewart, Chief Executive of the community-owned New Gorbals Housing Association, previously told the Glasgow Times that saving the blocks was unsustainable and unaffordable. This is due to the inability to bring cladding up to acceptable safety standards without spending a large amount of money on structures that had a limited lifespan. A total of 152 homes for social rent will be erected in its place, which NGHA hope to have ready within the next few years. The strategy for new homes was agreed between NGHA, Glasgow City Council and the Scottish Government. Fraser Stewart said the demolition is particularly sad as the blocks provided high quality and well maintained and managed homes right up to when tenants were rehoused back in 2021. He went on to add that it will be a sad and upsetting event for many of the folk who live good lives in these towers, some for many decades. Though Fraser said not one complaint has been launched since plans for the demolition were confirmed, some locals in the area were torn. Earlier this year, the Glasgow Times spoke to a number of residents who either live in the area or previously lived in the blocks. One man said the demolition was a great way to make the Gorbals more modern, while a local woman said the blowdown should improve the area. Another man agreed, saying that the demolition is a great idea to build new homes in the area. However, there were some people who felt saddened by the plans. One man, who had lived in the area all his days, said it was a great shame to see the blocks coming down. Waddell Court is now the only remaining tower block in the Gorbals. The Sandyfield Road towers were demolished in 2013, with the Norfolk Court towers blowing down in 2016. The Stringford Place towers were knocked down in 2008. The Queen Elizabeth Square towers were blown up in a controlled explosion in September 1993. Helen Tinney, 61, was part of a large crowd watching the 22-storey flat's demolition when she was struck by a piece of flying debris. Mrs. Tinney died in the Victoria Infirmary after collapsing at the scene of the blast. That article was written by Donald Erskine and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Sunday the 29th of June 2025, from the news section, Honorary President of Partick Thistle, Robert Reid, passes away aged 90. Report by David Irvin. Partick Thistle have led tributes to Honorary President Robert Reid after he passed away aged 90. A club statement on Sunday, June 19, confirmed the sad news. A member of the Club Hall of Fame, Reid was a supporter of Thistle for more than 70 years and held various roles within the Maryhill Club. He had served as Honorary President, Associate Director and Club Historian during his long association with the football club. Reid first watched Thistle as a youngster before going on to become Programme Editor for the club. In the voluntary role, he would also cover a number of vital jobs, alongside his work as a teacher, where he would work to become an assistant head teacher. Following his time as an educator, Reid would go on to become club secretary at Firhill in 1990. During this time, Reid would play a key role in the Save the Jags campaign in 1997. In 2015, Reid was inducted into the Partick Thistle Hall of Fame and would then be presented with the Once in a Generation Award by Dennis McQuaid in April 2024. A club statement read, "Everyone at the club who had the privilege to know Robert and work alongside him will miss him terribly, and the thoughts of everyone at Partick Thistle are with his friends and family." Chairman Richard Beestall said, "Robert Reid is a name that is synonymous with Partick Thistle. He was part of the very fabric of the club, and his contributions to the club off the pitch are as significant and as important as some of the contributions made on the pitch. I have been privileged to know Robert as a supporter, but I've also been very fortunate to spend time in his company over the last number of years as a director. He knew everything there was to know about this club, and I always enjoyed learning something new each time I spoke to him, such was the range of knowledge he had gained through the decades. He will be a big loss to Partick Thistle Football Club, and the thoughts of myself and everyone else at the club are with his friends and family. In 150 years of Partick Thistle, I don't think there has been a truer supporter of the club than Robert Reid. Rest easy, Robert." Plans for celebrating Robert Reid's life will be communicated by the club once they have been confirmed. That article was written by David Irvin. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 30th of June 2025, from the news section. Exclusive. Glasgow people save 12 kilograms of food waste per day in new pilot. Article written by Anne Fotheringham. Pupils at a Glasgow primary school who waged war against wasted food managed to reduce lunchtime leftovers by a whopping 12 kilograms per day. The Eco Committee at Blackfriars Primary in the Gorbals became waste warriors in the run-up to the school holidays after hearing why wasted food is a huge environmental issue. The pilot, by Glasgow City Council, in conjunction with Zero Waste Scotland, aims to reduce food being binned in school dining halls and encourage children to take the message home and make small changes in their own lives. The local authorities' catering and facilities management team visited the Southside School to explain the reason for the campaign, and the Eco Committee sprang into action, creating a weighing station with scales, posters and a disposal area. At the end of lunch break, the waste warriors checked people's trays, and if there was anything left, either encouraged them to eat more or share it with a friend, or take it home. Any whole fruits left over were distributed later on to pupils. The remaining food was weighed and added to a daily chart, and, after the pilot, it was revealed food waste levels were being reduced by 11.93 kilograms per day. The successful scheme will now be rolled out to a second Glasgow school in August, and the resource pack is being shared with all schools in the new term. Blackfriars pupil Louisa, who is one of the Waste Warriors team, said, "We have been encouraging pupils to eat more of their food, and if they say they don't like it, we will make sure they don't get it again next time. We want to get other pupils in the city to do this as well, to help reduce food waste in the city." Councillor Christina Cannon, Glasgow's Education and Early Years convener, said, "The Waste Warriors pilot is a fun way of engaging and educating our pupils about the dangerous impact of excess food waste and the small changes we can all implement to benefit the environment. This pupil-centred initiative gives our young people the autonomy to make positive environmental change as leaders of their own learning. I'm so proud of their hard work and commitment and enthusiasm to make a real difference. That article was an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 30th of June 2025, from the news section, exclusive. Glasgow schools' unforgettable trip after £27,000 boost. This article is written by Anne Fotheringham. Pupils from a Glasgow school, including many who had never travelled abroad before, have enjoyed an unforgettable adventure in Spain. The Primary 7 children from Cadder Primary in Glasgow Hill are twinned with Colegio Sorolla in Valencia, and after a £27,000 boost from the Turing scheme, which made the trip affordable for families, and months of hard work by teachers, they finally got to meet their Spanish peers. Head teacher Damien Nicholas said the trip had been a milestone in the pupils' primary school journey. It broadened their horizons, built confidence and created memories that will last a lifetime, he added. Many of these young people were going abroad for the first time. We are incredibly proud of how they represented our school and city. Cadder Primary began weekly Spanish lessons for all pupils in the school, with teacher Katie O'Brien, last year. At the same time, we were also successful in our application to the Turing Scheme, a UK government initiative for schools which provides funding for international study and work placements, said Damien. Cadder Primary was awarded £27,000 for a 5-day educational and cultural trip to Valencia for a group of Primary 7 pupils. For the next few months, teachers and pupils in Glasgow took part in a range of activities designed to build up partnership with Colegio Sorolla, including a Spanish week, celebrating Spanish music, art, food and culture. Last month, children headed to Valencia, where they spent time in Collera Beach and visited l'Oceanographique, Europe's largest aquarium, to learn about marine life, from graceful dolphins to mysterious jellyfish. At Colegio Sorolla, the pupils were warmly welcomed by their Spanish peers, and together they participated in joint lessons, games and cultural exchanges, says Damien. It was heartwarming to see friendships blossom across borders and languages, reinforcing the value of global citizenship. The group also explored the historic heart of Valencia. The children were fascinated by the city's rich history and stunning architecture, added Damien. Later, we visited Gulliver's Park, where the giant playground structure based on the story of Gulliver's travels provided endless fun and laughter. Primary 7 pupil Harris Campbell, 11, said, I love learning about Spain, its language and its people. My favourite thing was visiting the old town, because I like learning about history and the architecture of old buildings. I also really enjoy going to the beach every day. It was the best school trip ever and a bargain because it only cost about £50. Principal teacher, Stephanis Zola, said, taking our Primary 7 children to Valencia was a fantastic and memorable experience. For many, it was their first time travelling abroad, making it especially meaningful. They had the unique opportunity to explore a different culture while sharing the experience with their peers. In June, children who attended the Valencia trip were invited to the city chambers for lunch and a meeting with the Lord Provost, Councillor Jacqueline McLaren. The pupils returned brimming with excitement and unforgettable memories, says Damien. The experience, which combined learning, friendship and fun, was a resounding success and a perfect way to round off their final year at primary school. That article was an exclusive, written by Anne Fotheringham and read by Iain McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 30th of June 2025, from the news section. Here's when Lewis Capaldi will play at the Glasgow OVO Hydro, by Amy Miles. Glasgow-born superstar Lewis Capaldi has announced that he will be returning to his home city as part of his upcoming tour. The Someone You Love singer is set to perform at the OVO Hydro in Glasgow on September the 13th this year. The 28-year-old will be supported by Sky Newman and Aaron Rowe. Pre-sale tickets will go live from 9 AM on July the 9th, and general sale will follow on July the 10th. He announced the gig on his social media, saying, "About time I got back to work. Hope to see you out there." He followed the post by commenting, "It'll be my only shows in the UK, Ireland or Europe this year. Would love to see you there." Scottish singing sensation recently made his official return to the spotlight with the release of his new single, Survive, marking his first release since his emotional exit from the stage at Glastonbury 2023, where the crowd have famously helped him complete this set. The Glasgow Times reported that the track offers a deeply personal insight into Lewis's mental and emotional journey over the past year. Capaldi continued to stun fans by making a surprise appearance at Glastonbury over the weekend, where he performed an unannounced set on the Pyramid stage. The Glasgow Times reported that the crowd began chanting "Oh Lewis Capaldi" before he launched into his hit "Before You Go" to open the set. Although listed as TBA on the Glastonbury website, eagle-eyed fans had already speculated days earlier that Capaldi would be making a return. He performed his new single and told the crowd that getting back to the Pyramid stage had been his goal for the last 2 years, with Survive written about his journey. That article was written by Amy Miles and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 30th of June 2025, from the news section, probe launched after St Conville's cemetery vandalised. Report by Amy Miles. A wooden crucifix has been set alight and some 40 headstones attacked at an East Renfrewshire cemetery in what a bishop has condemned as senseless vandalism. The incident at St Conville's cemetery on Glasgow Road, Barrhead, is understood to have happened in the early hours of June 29. The Diocese of Paisley reported that after entering the cemetery grounds, those responsible attacked around 40 headstones, with some being demolished. A 5-metre high wooden crucifix was also set on fire. The Bishop of Paisley, Bishop John Keenan, said, "I am saddened and dismayed by the senseless vandalism and the destructive violence behind it. My thoughts and prayers are with the families who have had headstones attacked, as well as with the whole community of relatives and friends who visited St Conville's and care for the graves of their loved ones so tenderly." The Bishop added, "My gratitude goes to the St Conville staff who maintain the grounds and administer the cemetery, and who now face the distressing task of repairing and making safe damaged graves while comforting distraught families." A spokesperson for the Diocese of Paisley said, "Anyone wishing to contact the cemetery staff can do so on 0141 881 1058 or St Conville Cemetery rcdop.org.uk. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, "Around 8:50 AM on Sunday, June 29, 2025, we received a report of vandalism at a cemetery in Glasgow Road, Hurlet, Barrhead. Inquiries are at an early stage. Anyone with any information is asked to contact police on 101, quoting reference number 1089 of June 29. That article was written by Amy Miles. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 30th of June 2025, from the news section, exclusive, this Glasgow school got a glowing report from inspectors. Article written by Anne Fotheringham. A Glasgow primary school enjoyed an end-of-term boost when inspectors delivered a glowing report. The Education Scotland team said staff at Our Lady of the Annunciation Primary School in Newlands have created a calm, purposeful learning environment for children, and added, "This is leading to a very positive attainment and achievement for most children." The report continued, "Children have high levels of engagement in their learning. They are proud of their school and their individual and collective achievements. They demonstrate very positive behaviour and kindness to each other." The inspector said staff's approach to teaching writing at the school is very effective, and added, "As a result, children's attainment in writing is of a very high standard." Primary 6 pupils, Heba and Oscar, said they were very proud of their school, and added, "We are happy with the report. We are extremely glad to recognise how hard we work and especially how much our writing has improved." Maureen Douglas, head teacher, said, Our children are truly wonderful, and the inspectors were genuinely impressed with their enthusiasm for their learning and the pride they take in their school. We are delighted that the strength and spirit which makes our school such a special place was recognised during our inspection. We are incredibly proud of the hard work and dedication shown by all our staff. Their commitment to our school community is truly commendable. As areas for improvement, the inspector said staff should, as planned, develop their approaches to planning children's learning to better meet all children's needs. This includes for those who require greater challenge with their learning. The report added, staff should continue to develop approaches to play-based learning to ensure this is a strong feature of the children's learning experiences. Councillor Christina Cannon, Glasgow City Council's Education Convener, said, "This is a very good report card for the school community. Pupils' attainment and achievement have been singled out, as well as the importance of a pupil voice. I love to hear about the school's legendary literacy merits and Star Writer Awards. Congratulations to the school community for a glowing inspection." The full report is available on the Education Scotland website. That article was an exclusive, written by Anne Fotheringham and read by Iain McKenna.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 1st of July 2025, from the news section. Glasgow pedo jailed for 13 years for abuse of children, and this article was written by Donald Erskine. A man has been sentenced after being convicted of offences including rape, sexual offences and stalking. Gary McPherson, 58, committed the crimes between 2005 and 2022 in Paisley, Glasgow and Orlando. The majority of his 8 victims were children when the abuse began and continued into adulthood. McPherson was sentenced to 13 years in prison at the High Court in Paisley on Monday the 30th of June 2025. He had previously been found guilty at the High Court in Paisley on Monday the 12th of May 2025. He has also been placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely and was given non-harassment orders against 7 of his victims. Detective Inspector Ewan McMillan said, "McPherson is an abusive individual who subjected his victims to a prolonged period of abuse, showing an utter disregard for the impact this would have on them. We acknowledge how difficult it can be for victims of sexual abuse to come forward, and I hope this outcome provides them with some sense of closure. I would like to also thank my team of officers whose perseverance and dedication has ensured McPherson has been brought to justice. We continue to be committed to bringing all perpetrators of sexual abuse to justice. Time is no barrier to our inquiries. I would urge anyone who wishes to report a sexual crime, regardless of when it happened, to contact us so we can conduct a thorough and professional investigation." And that article was written by Donald Erskine. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 1st of July 2025, from the news section. Glasgow School's brilliant project helps pupils understand emotions, and this article was written by Anne Fotheringham. Flowers of all shapes and colours, from fiery reds and soft whites to moody blues and vivid purples, fill the school hall at Bankhead Primary in Knightswood. It started as a growing project, says class teacher Emily Keenan, but it became much more as the pupils created displays themed around emotions. It's okay to feel our feelings was the message, she explains. As part of our campaign to keep our eco-green flag, the school has been working on a variety of projects, including growing our own produce and litter picking in and around the playground, adds Emily. We wanted to do something the whole school could do, however, so we had the idea of Bankhead in Bloom. The children had to plant flowers and create their own display around a specific character from the films Inside Out and Inside Out 2. The Pixar movie characters include sadness, anxiety, joy and anger. It meant we could incorporate health and well-being,
because everything was linked to specific feelings, adds Emily. The children have been fantastic and they really used their imaginations to come up with some brilliant displays. The school's nurture and wellbeing class, the SNUG, also took part. Emily adds, the message was about understanding it's okay to feel these feelings, that we all have all the emotions in there, so it's important to talk about them. Primary 7 pupils Kelly Ikuna and Lin Wang created a display themed around the character of anxiety. We wanted to pick warmer colours that stood out more because when you feel anxiety you can feel stress, explains Kelly 11. Lynn, who's also 11, adds, but then we also included lighter colours to show that even when you're stressed, there will always be peace afterwards. Bankhead and Bloom judges had a near impossible task to decide on winners, but Primary 4's display was crowned the champion. 9-year-olds Ava Alexander and Maisie Connolly explained how their magnificent fiery collection summed up their theme of anger. In the film, fire shoots out of Anger's head, so we wanted to create something like that, says Ava. We were a bit mad at first that we had to do something angry, but we liked it in the end. Maisie added, it's okay to feel angry, but also to know that you should talk about it so that you will calm down and deal with it. Aria Cairns, who's 11, was one of the Primary 6 pupils responsible for a lovely, understated display based on the character Enu. We wanted to be interesting but not that exciting because it's supposed to be about boredom, she explains. We really liked being part of Bankhead and Bloom. It's been fun. And that article was written by Anne Fotheringham. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 1st of July 2025, from the news section. Glasgow Subway announced strike action over Transmit weekend. And this article was written by Amy Miles. Glasgow subway workers are set to stage a 3-day strike over the same weekend that the city hosts the popular Transmit Music Festival. Unite the Union has announced that the ongoing dispute over pay and working conditions involving more than 100 workers employed by Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, SPT. The union has announced they will be hosting 3 more strike days, confirmed for Friday, July the 11th, Saturday, July the 12th, and Sunday, July the 13th. Since June the 13th, a continuous overtime ban has been in effect. A recent interim offer made by SPT was overwhelmingly rejected by Unite members. Last week, a 3-day walkout by union members brought the entire subway system to a halt. The Glasgow Times reported that the disruption affected festival goers heading to see Sting at Bellahouston Park during the Glasgow summer sessions. Sharon Graham, General Secretary of Unite, said, Unite's members will no longer accept intolerable working conditions. SPT has had years to resolve the problem and has failed to do so. Our members have said enough is enough. We will support them all the way in their fight for better jobs, pay and conditions. The core issues in the dispute include concerns over pay, shift allowances and overall working conditions. According to Unite, train drivers and station staff are regularly working up to 10 hours beyond their contracted 39-hour week without any enhancements to their shift, overtime or weekend pay. Staff are also reportedly called in to cover shifts at short notice, placing significant strain on their work-life balance. Andrew Brown, Unite Industrial Officer, added, SPT can fix this dispute at any point, but they are refusing to do so. It needs to make an improved offer which our members can then seriously consider. Strike action is now set to take place later this month, which will again bring the subway to a complete stop. This isn't inevitable if SPT come back to the table with an improved offer, but if they don't, then the blame will be entirely with them for their failure to fix this dispute. The strikes are expected to cause major disruption for music fans, with more than 50,000 people attending Transmit each day of the strike. The festival is held in Glasgow Green, just half a mile from St Enoch subway station. This year's Transmit headliners include Snow Patrol, Biffy Clyro and 50 Cent. And this article was written by Amy Miles. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 1st of July 2025, from the news section. Women in Glasgow jail get spending on food cut by 25%, and this article was written by Stuart Patterson. Prisoners at Glasgow's newest custody centre for women have had their food budget cut by 25%. Glasgow's new women's jail has been given a positive report by inspectors praising relations between staff and residents. The Lilies Centre in Maryhill opened in 2022, housing 24 women. The women live in residential blocks with single rooms and organise meal planning, shopping and cooking themselves. Their budget for food was £40 per week per person, but it was cut to £30 per week after a review. The inspector said the decision to better align with community living conditions was acknowledged by the residents and they appeared to adapt well to it. The report by HMIP Independent Prison Monitoring said meals were planned and prepared by individuals with support for healthy eating, cooking and budgeting. Items were purchased using a weekly meal shopping allowance ordered online from Tesco. The meal weekly allowance was set at £40 but was managed at £38.50 to account for potential price differences when placing the order. For most of the year, this allowance was maintained. However, in March 2025, following a review by SPS, the budget was reduced to £30 per week. Inspectors visited the jail once a week and reported on several categories. On personal safety, they stated no concerns regarding personal safety were raised. The individuals in Lilies reported feeling safe and comfortable communicating any concerns with staff. On respect, autonomy and protection from mistreatment, there was a calm and respectful atmosphere with few complaints received by Lilies, possibly due to good relationships and resolving issues informally with staff at the lowest level possible without the need to submit a complaint form. For purposeful activity, they found throughout the year SPS staff and partners, including the Creative Change Collective, Citizens Theatre, Jumping Jacks, Hope Connections, Wise Women, Recovery Coaching Scotland, DWP and Fife College, delivered diverse activities tailored to various needs and interests. These included workshops and opportunities in alternative therapies with crystals and chakra healing, creative writing, drama, songwriting, a new book club in partnership with Edinburgh University, guest speakers and crafts like embroidery and sewing. In the final remarks on encouraging observations, there were strong positive relationships with all staff and partners involved with Lilies. There was a noticeable decrease in discussions related to feelings of boredom as residents adapted to a significantly different regime and assumed greater responsibility for managing their time effectively. And that article was written by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 1st of July 2025, from the Lifestyle section. Clarendon Fine Art to open new Glasgow gallery soon. And this article was written by Sanja Suresh. A new gallery is opening in the heart of Glasgow. Clarendon Fine Art will launch its newest location on Royal Exchange Square on July the 11th, marking the brand's first gallery in the city. The gallery will open in a restored historic building from the late 1700s, spanning 2 floors. Helen Swaby, owner and chief executive officer of Clarendon Fine Art, said, "We are thrilled to be opening this gallery in Glasgow. The new gallery reflects our commitment to making exceptional art accessible and engaging, offering both seasoned collectors and first-time buyers a truly inspiring experience. We look forward to becoming part of Glasgow's vibrant creative community. The space will showcase modern and contemporary art from established and emerging artists, including the Corner Brothers, Mr. Brainwash, Danielle O'Connor, Akiyama, Philip Gray and Fabian Perez. Those interested in attending the launch event can RSVP at https://clarendonfineart.com/collections/Glasgow. Visitors can expect a mix of original artworks, limited editions and sculptures. The gallery will also offer personalised art consultation services, exclusive launch events and opportunities to meet artists. Clarendon Fine Art is inviting guests to its official launch event on August the 21st from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Guests will enjoy a drinks reception, live entertainment and the chance to explore the gallery's collection. The gallery is located in a prime area of Glasgow, surrounded by luxury brands and cultural landmarks such as the Ivy, Vivienne Westwood and the Gallery of Modern Art. That article was written by Sandhya Suresh.
Evening Times, July 1. Opinion. Glasgow Councillor wants commitment to extend £200,000 school meals project. Prominent councillor Paul Carey is calling on the Scottish Government to commit to long-term funding to ensure free school meals are rolled out to every S1 to S4 secondary school pupil across the city. He says choosing just 4 Glasgow secondaries for a £200,000 pilot project that will see 400 youngsters given a healthy lunch means that many living in poverty elsewhere will be left hungry. Castlemilk, Drumchapel and Lochend High Schools, as well as pupils at Springburn Academy, have been chosen to participate with those whose parents are carers or in receipt of the Scottish Child Payment qualifying. Councillor Carey says the scheme does not go far enough to help those in Glasgow living on the breadline, and continued, "The reality is that we need to secure better funding from the Scottish Government to ensure that no child is going hungry at school, especially those living in areas of high deprivation and unemployment. I want to see the initiative extended to every high school in Glasgow, including pupils in 4th year. We need to ensure that as many youngsters as possible are getting at least one healthy hot feed every weekday. We know how important it is to fuel youngsters with nutritious food, and for many, this might be the only decent meal they get. It is important that this is offered to every youngster from S1 to S4. Councillor Carey is Labour's elected member for Drumchapel and Annisland, and he says that working poverty is very real for many families in his constituency who are struggling to make ends meet, and adds, Drumchapel has one of the highest poverty rates in Glasgow. Parents here are struggling to keep a roof over their heads, pay bills, and put clothes on their back. They often have no option but to turn to cheap, unhealthy foods. Clearly the Scottish Government knows that this is an issue. That is why this pilot is being tested in areas with high deprivation. I welcome the scheme being rolled out at Drumchapel High. However, we need to ensure this does not come to an end when the funding runs out next year. Kids can access free school meals from Primary 1 to Primary 5. But what happens when they go to high school and are not eligible for a free lunch?
From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of July 2025, from the opinion section. Our teachers are working harder than ever, by Councillor Rashid Hussain. As we head into the summer holidays, I'd like to take the opportunity to celebrate the tireless work that teachers across the city do, day in, day out. I see this firsthand through my own children's teachers, guiding and supporting them through exams and making sure they achieve their full potential in their exams. In the face of unprecedented challenges, our teachers have supported thousands of children across Glasgow, and we should be applauding their creativity, dedication and commitment. Our teachers are working harder than ever to teach the increasing numbers of pupils needing extra support in the classroom. Audit Scotland found around 40% of Scottish pupils are now receiving additional support for learning, ESL, most of it delivered within mainstream schools. I believe we need to rethink how we approach ASL and, rather than regarding the needs of pupils as additional, see them for what they are, support needs that a significant proportion of the classroom population have. An approach that reflected this would involve ensuring every teacher is equipped to support kids with ASL, both in resourcing and training. Auditor General Stephen Boyle said, "The Scottish Government has failed to plan effectively for its inclusive approach to additional support for learning. The report found only about 20% of schools have dedicated facilities for ASL pupils, and dealing with their needs was increasingly a core role for classroom teachers. The inclusive approach has not been reflected in funding formulas, training, class sizes or the design of school buildings," it added. Things are not getting easier for our children. The Glasgow Labour Group is deeply concerned and disappointed by the decision of the SNP-led city administration to cut school librarian posts across the city as part of its wider budget reductions. The decision has seen 10 out of 14 librarian roles removed, leaving many of Glasgow schools without the specialist literacy and learning support that pupils rely on. School librarians are essential educators who support young people in developing research skills, nurturing a love of reading and helping close the attainment gap. Many of them also carry out roles which may not be captured in a job description or organogram. Pitching in on extracurricular activities, identifying children and young people who need support. They are a key part of the school community and cannot be removed without having a negative impact on that community. Removing these roles is a regressive step that may harm pupils' development, particularly those who already face disadvantage. Despite repeated warnings, the SNP administration pressed ahead with a so-called service review that was, in effect, a cover for cuts. The review dragged on for more than a year and was revealed only days before the summer holidays, avoiding meaningful scrutiny or engagement with the schools, pupils or parents. This decision further illustrates the SNP's disregard for Glasgow's education services and their ongoing failure to prioritise young people in this city. The SNP talk about equality and inclusion, but their actions undermine both. The Glasgow Labour Group will continue to stand up for our schools, our librarians, and the young people who deserve access to the opportunities that a properly supported education provides. These roles should have never been on the chopping block, and we will continue to fight for their restoration. That was an opinion piece by Councillor Rashid Hussain, and it was read by me, Iain McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of July 2025, from the Lifestyle section, Glasgow Airport security warned travellers to be prepared. Article written by Ben Waddell. Glasgow Airport has warned travellers taking medicines through security to be prepared this summer. In a clip uploaded to Facebook, the city's travel hub revealed everything holidaymakers need to know about taking medication through security. The video starts with the airport security manager, Kenny, introducing himself. The security boss went on to reveal that holidaymakers travelling with prescription medicines must have a prescription or a note from their doctor. He also said any liquids 100ml or less may be kept in passengers' carry-on luggage. However, any medical liquids over 100ml must be taken out and subjected to additional screening. The top boss also urged travellers to only carry the amount of liquids they need for their trip and be prepared. Kenny said, "Hi, my name is Kenny. I'm the airport security manager for Glasgow Airport. I'm here today to explain to you how to get medicines through Glasgow Airport. The first thing to note is that all prescription medications must have a prescription or a note from the doctor to bring them through. The security officer may ask to see your prescription, your name, or a letter from the doctor. Any liquids at 100 ml or less may be kept in your cabin luggage. Any liquid containers over 100 ml must be taken out of your cabin baggage and subject to additional screening. You should only carry the amount of liquids you need for your trip. If your liquids are required to be kept cool, and it's noted in your prescription, you may take an ice pack with you, which will be subject to additional screening. These conditions only apply to prescription medication. All other over-the-counter medications are subject to the same restrictions as all liquids. Remember, we're here to get you through security safely and quickly. Being prepared is key to that. That article was written by Ben Waddell. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of July 2025, in the lifestyle section. Knightswood School recognised by Scottish Book Trust. Article written by Beth Oliver. A primary school has been recognised for its commitment to fostering a culture of reading. Bankhead Primary School in Knightswood has earned the Silver Reading Schools Award from the Scottish Book Trust. The accolade recognises the school's efforts to promote reading amongst pupils, staff and the wider community. To celebrate the achievement, the school hosted a Silver Storytelling Breakfast Bash in its final week of term. Parents and carers were invited to join pupils and staff for a morning of traditional storytelling, beginning with breakfast, followed by a special session led by Scottish storyteller Jerry Durkin. The award reflects a broad effort to embed reading into daily life, both within the school and beyond. Pupils have participated in author visits, including a massive poetry lesson with Laura Murcher as part of a successful Guinness World Record attempt. The school has also developed strong ties within the community, inviting dentists, opticians, engineers and business professionals to participate in career-themed literacy sessions. Pupils have taken reading into the wider community by sharing stories with residents at a care home, as well as the local fire station, community centre and secondary school. Bankhead Primary has also launched a Reading Ambassadors programme to give pupils a voice in promoting reading. Teachers have integrated reading across the curriculum through paired reading, class novel studies and regular author-focused activities. Staff has also undertaken professional development to better understand the impact of reading for pleasure on well-being and attainment. In addition, the school has supported pupils with library sessions during the summer holidays. Katie Gurley, literacy lead at Bankhead Primary, said, "We are absolutely thrilled to receive the Silver Reading Schools Award. It is a testament to the hard work of our pupils, staff and families in making reading a valued and inspiring part of our school culture. Events like our author visits and community reading sessions really bring that to life, raising the profile of reading in the school and wider community." The Reading Schools programme, run by the Scottish Book Trust and supported by Scottish Government, aims to foster a lifelong love of reading in young people. Bankhead Primary now has its sights set on achieving gold accreditation as it continues to nurture a passion for reading in every child. That report was written by Beth Oliver and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of July 2025, from the news section. Man caught raping woman while people were taking out the bins, jailed. Report by Dave Finlay. A sex attacker who was caught raping an unconscious woman was jailed for 4.5 years today after claiming they were just having a bit of fun. Stephen Brown, 42, assaulted the victim while she was intoxicated with drugs and drink and incapable of consenting to sex at the rear of Hillhead Library in Glasgow's Byres Road. A judge said at the High Court in Edinburgh that the offence took place in a lane when both Brown and the woman had consumed alcohol and drugs. Lord Harrower noted that Brown told the author of a background report prepared on him that he had absolutely no recollection of the crime, but was totally disgusted by his behaviour. The judge told Brown, who has previous convictions for crimes of violence, dishonesty and drugs, that he would have faced a 6-year term but for his guilty plea. Brown earlier admitted sexually assaulting and raping the woman on July 25th last year. During the attack, he pulled down her lower clothes and lifted up her upper clothes and touched her breasts. Advocate Depute David Dixon told the court that the two people were taking bins into Ashton Lane at Glasgow's West End when they saw the woman lying on her back. The prosecutor said she was naked from the waist down with Brown on top of her. They feared that the woman was dead and contacted emergency services. When police arrived, they yelled at Brown to get off the victim. Mr. Dixon said, "They seized hold of Brown, who said, 'Let me pull my trousers up, we were just having a bit of fun.'" The woman was found to be unresponsive and was taken to hospital. She did not come round until the following morning. Defence counsel Alan MacLeod: "It was quite some time afterwards before police were able to interview Mr. Brown. He was himself extremely intoxicated. He remembers being engaged in some sexual acts with the complainer and then waking up in the police station," he told the court. Mr. MacLeod said he thought both Brown and the victim had consumed street Valium and encountered each other in the street. He said Brown, a former window fabricator, was very apologetic for his behaviour and disgusted by it. The defence counsel said Brown realised he needed to address his drink problem and has been sober for a year during his remand in custody. Brown was placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely. That article was written by Dave Finlay.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.